And we're live. How you like that? Just to play the little intro music. We pop in live. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is John Tedora. They call me the Sports Trader. And for today, I'm going to be that guy who's the host of the show. And on my left over there, right over there on that side, that's we call him the Sports Nerd. His name is Lance Fernandez. Lance used to write for Fox News. Now works for us over at What's on Sports as our lead writer. Lance, how you doing today, buddy?
Oh, just keeping it positive and just enjoying life in general.
Yeah, that's the one thing about you. You're always keeping it positive. No matter what, nothing seems to rattle you. I love that about you. Now, we're going to be diving into a lot of sports stuff today. Like, we got a tremendous amount of sports stuff to cover today. And we're going to have a special show today where we're going to be talking about all this quarterback movement. Like, there's going to be a lot of quarterback movement going on. But before we do any of that, before we jump into any of that, we got to jump into some breaking news. Things that are happening right now around the world. We got to find out what's going on and keep people updated. So we're going to go to Lance. Lance lives on Twitter. He's always finding out the newest stuff from his sources and things like that. So Lance, why don't you tell us what's happening around the world?
Okay, so since we are having like predominantly NFL show, so we're going to have quick fire news, NFL related as well. So first breaking news, and a sad news that is, Vincent Jackson passed away at age 38. So he was found at the Homewood Suites in Tampa Bay, and he has been staying there for like a month since January 11th. So authorities found him dead Monday in that hotel room, and there's no definite reason for the death or cause of death yet. But as always, when somebody in the NFL, be it a player, coach, or any contributor, passes away, it always leaves a bitter taste to the fans.
Yeah, to me, Jackson was like one of the first really like big receivers that I remember. The guy was just huge, just such a large man, and really, to me, never got the credit for being a really good receiver. I don't know if he was great, but he was really good. He was a game changer for sure. Big play guy. When you start to hear about a guy who just spent, January, February in a hotel, he's been living in a hotel for 6-7 weeks, ends up dying in the hotel. I mean, that's just really leads you to believe that maybe his life took a bad turn, which would be very, very sad that the guy, like sports is sports, but the reality is the guy pretty much had everything. And now he died alone in a hotel room. I don't want to hope it's natural causes because that sounds terrible, but for the sake of this discussion, I really hope it's natural causes and not something drug related. I hope his life didn't make a turn like that, but rest in peace, Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, rest in peace indeed. Yeah, that's the problem with some NFL players. Maybe they don't save enough. So once their career is over and playing the most violent sport in the world, you don't know when it's over. So that's a sad fact for these NFL players. So unfortunately, maybe that's where Jackson's career went to. And it's just very unfortunate to see him see his demise in this way.
Yeah, I don't want to speculate like that, but you make a good point. And I think really the point is it's hard to go from being that guy to the other guy. Like it's hard from going to be the guy who's getting all this attention from the girls and from people and from the media and people in front of your locker. They want to ask you questions. And when you stop playing, nobody wants to talk to you anymore. Like you're no longer a relevant individual. And I think that's a very tough thing for the guys. That and the camaraderie that's built inside these locker rooms. When you listen to these guys talk, that's the one thing the guys really miss. They miss the other guys. So you're around all these guys. You're part of something that's larger than you, and it's really hard to replace that if you're not really set up for the next stage in your life. I wonder. I don't think Jackson. If I recall, I don't believe Jackson left of his own volition. I believe he just kind of faded away. Like he didn't retire. I think at one point nobody wanted him anymore, and that's actually even harder. So when you get kind of like pushed out of the league at 32, 31, 32 years old, you're still young. You don't know what to do next, and you have to find your way in life. It's got to be tough. And again, we're speculating completely about what happened to the guy. But just when you hear a guy's been living in a hotel for the last 6 weeks, you just realize that something happened. Like that you don't just go live in a hotel because you think, oh, this is going to be great. Something happened to make you live in that hotel. So rest in peace, Jackson. And let's move on to our next story. Hopefully it'll be a little more upbeat.
Yeah, condolences to the family that he left behind as well. So speaking of somebody who always is in the attention, we have a former NFL cornerback Adam Pacman Jones,
Oh
again
yeah.
arrested and charged with a misdemeanor assault. So, former NFL cornerback Adam Jones has found himself in trouble with the law again. So, it has been reported that he has been arrested in Cincinnati and charged with a misdemeanor assault. I believe that he went into a bar and he assaulted one of the guards or like one of the bouncers there. So, and his reason for doing that is because, according to his own words, he just had to. So again,
Yeah.
Pacman Jones, checkered history, pretty much a good player, average, I guess. But he is known for these antics.
Well, look, I want to comment on the Pacman Jones things. Before I do, we've already got some comments happening. We are broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube. We do get some comments. If you guys make comments, we will put them up on the screen. Good, bad, and different. We just got our first one in here by Silent Hoops, who is saying that he is present and accounted for. The reason I'm mentioning it again is because that's a great logo. I'm not even sure what it means, but it's Silent Hoops. That's an awesome logo, buddy. And glad to have you on board listening. Pacman Jones is an interesting guy. You know, drafted, I think, number 6 overall by Tennessee. He was drafted really as a dual threat, supposed to be a shutdown corner and a return man. And hang on, not LeBron James is here too. I just had to, solid reason. And his logo says 24. Yeah, I know it says 24, but I don't know what it means. It's Silent Hoops. So I don't know what the logo means. It's a cool logo. I just don't know what it means. Anyway, so Pacman Jones. Pacman Jones is an interesting character because to me, Pacman Jones had the potential to be, you know, a Deion Sanders guy. And I think Tennessee thought so too. He had a couple okay years in Tennessee. I wouldn't say he was an average player. I thought he was a pretty good player, but he had a ton of problems. I mean, this guy's in a fight every other day. If you go on YouTube, there's a video of him. Literally, he's walking through an airport in Atlanta carrying like some fried chicken, and somehow he gets into a fight with some guy that works in the airport. Like, I have no idea why. He knocks the guy on his ass. I mean, he fights like he fights in such a bizarre way for a guy that's always in fights. He's like throwing like overhand punches. It's absolutely awful. But he ends up knocking the guy down who's bigger than he is, but is a worse fighter than he is. So it's actually pretty funny. I hate to see Pacman Jones and all these problems. When you see him interviewed, he definitely seems like a really decent guy. He's either got some anger issues or, you know, according to his story that I did hear him actually speak on the story. He said that he was at the club. The police showed up. When the police showed up, he was in his Rolls Royce pulling away, and the police stopped him and pulled him over. So he didn't get a DUI. So he wasn't drunk, but it's obviously there's some type of violence thing going on there. The story, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lance, because you know the story better than I do, but the story the way I understood it is that he got into a fight and he kicked the guy, and he kicked the guy unconscious or something like that. It was a pretty violent fight, apparently. So I don't know. Is that right? Is that what you heard?
That's pretty much an accurate. That's pretty much an accurate depiction of what happened. And well, we can only hope that Pacman Jones will improve from this situation. He's been known by being this kind of person ever since he was playing. So I just hope that he'll be able to clean up his reputation as he grows older, because it's not improving for him. He's not in the league anymore. He's not getting top dollar as an NFL player.
Yeah.
So I guess more frustrations come in because he's not getting that amount of money anymore, and that's why he remains this violent of a person.
I don't know if that's why. Listen, I think that it's in some of us. You know, as I grew up, I had these tendencies myself. I grew out of them. Maturity took over, and I grew out of them a little bit. But when you're raised in a violent society, if you're raised in a violent environment, and it's only compounded by the fact that you now have a very violent job, I don't think it ever leaves you. So this may be an issue that follows him forever. And it also may be an issue where he's always going to be in the middle of something he shouldn't be in the middle of. And that happens to a lot of guys too. I know guys that are some of the nicest guys in the world in Miami, some really nice guys, always in the middle of some shit, always in the middle of something. And it's like, that guy's such a nice guy when you talk to him. He's such a good heart, good soul, always in the middle of some shit. And I've been around a lot of football players, and it just feels like those guys have to be careful because they are magnets for trouble. Trouble will find them. Somebody will know who they are and somehow seek them out and just cause trouble around them. So these guys, it's not easy being Pacman Jones, especially with the reputation that he has. So hopefully it all works out. hopefully he didn't commit a crime, and hopefully he can move on with his life, like you said. And I think he's got a couple kids now. He's got a wife, so he doesn't need that in his life. So, you got any positive news? Anything positive happened in the last couple of days? One guy died. One guy went to jail. What else happened?
Apparently, let's continue with the somber news in the NFL. So, speaking of troubles, Urban Meyer just became the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he's already embroiled in trouble by hiring a former University of Iowa strength and conditioning coach, Chris Doyle. But apparently, Chris Doyle resigned from Jacksonville because more players or former players of the Hawkeyes came out for his alleged mistreatment of African American players. But knowing this background, Urban Meyer should have had vetoed the hiring of Chris Doyle. He should have had seen this beforehand, given that it's already the NFL and we have a woke culture right now. So he will be crucified for this.
Look, we talked about this before, actually. You and I talked about this off air, and I know my opinion is not a popular one in today's society, but I'll give it anyway. And my opinion is quite simply this. I don't know what Chris Doyle said before. I don't know what he's guilty of from before. I understand that there were some players that complained about the way he treated them. Now, to me, if you're going to hire somebody like that, you talk to him about his past and you make sure that it doesn't happen again. I think that as employees, and that's all these people are, is they're employees. They're just like you. They're just like me. We work for somebody. If we make mistakes in our lives, it can't be held against us to the point where we can never hold a job again. That's not fair. It just isn't. So I don't know what crimes Chris Doyle is guilty of committing. I understand that vaguely, like I said, I understand vaguely what people were talking about, but I don't know exactly what he said. Now, again, this could be 2 players that said they were treated poorly, or it could have been 75 players on the University of Iowa football team. I don't know that information, but I will say that I do find it a little unfair that once you screw up, once somebody says that you're not a good person, that you can no longer ever work again. I don't agree with that. So I would like to know more information. This is now being tried in the court of public opinion. Otherwise, I wouldn't say I deserve any information. But since it's now being tried in the court of public opinion, I would love to know the information as to what Mr. Doyle did before, exactly, at least of what he's being accused of before, so I can have a better understanding of what he did. But it is a shame that the guy worked there for, I think, a day, and then he left. So
yeah. So more than 2 former players of the University of Iowa actually came out with tweets. So there's this one player who was vehemently against the hiring of Chris Doyle. And then it just brought out a laundry list of all the egregiousness that Chris Doyle committed allegedly in the University of Iowa. So it's just
were there any details though of things that he did?
It's mostly about commenting because they were African American. There were some innuendos, so to speak, of being African American, and Doyle was able to include it in the statement. So I guess that's how it went. Okay. And apparently, piggybacking on your point, we just live in a stage nowadays wherein all of your dirt will be unearthed, sadly, because all of information is there.
Let me just say something though, really quick. And if you've ever played sports with people that are of other ethnicities and other races, that's how you talk in a locker room. I don't know what he said, but when I was in a locker room, like the black guys made fun of the white guys made fun of the black guys. It wasn't meant to be a malicious thing. It was like, you're my friend, and I'm gonna bust on you a little bit because you're Hispanic or I'm Italian or he's a black. That's just what people do. So if you ever hear athletes talk, they say those things to each other all the time. So it's unfortunate because once you cross that line, some people cross the line too far. And I think that's what happens when you hear about these situations. Someone didn't understand what the line was. Like, look, listen, we're just going to go a little bit of like past this line. We're not going to go all the way. And maybe what Doyle did is he went a little too far. I don't know, but it's just a shame that the guy lost his job. Maybe he deserved not to have a job again. I don't know what the story is. So what else you got? Anything else?
And that's our quick fire news for today, John.
All right, all quickfire news is out of the way. That was some really depressing quickfire news. Before we go any further, I'll let you guys know if you have comments, leave them in the comments section. We'll be happy to respond to you if it's a good comment. I also want to let you know that the show today is brought to you by our friends over at What's on Sports and a brand new product that they have called the $2 Sports Club. Now, we'll be telling you more about the $2 Sports Club later on, but if you want to go, there's a link at the bottom of it's somewhere in the description. You can go check out the link and check out the $2 Sports Club today. The amount of stuff that you're going to get for $2 is absolutely unreal. It's the best deal in sports right now. You go over there right now and check out the $2 Sports Club. Follow the link in the bottom of the description. Now, touchdown!